Welcome to Anime Plus Recap. Today's recap is 2016's Japanese anime drama movie, A Silent Voice. The movie chronicles the emotional, social, and spiritual attributes that are manifested by a group of adolescent schoolmates in elementary school. This story is not mainly based on a love story. It's about a guy finding his reason to live life and love himself and accept who he is. Spoilers ahead. The movie starts off with the main protagonist Shouya Ishida, seen tearing up all of his calendar beyond April 15. He quits his job, sells all his stuff, and withdraws all his money from the bank. On the day of April 15, he places all the money he had taken out next to his mother's bed and heads out to the bridge nearby. He climbs up to the railing, determined to end all his misery, but changes his mind at the last minute and decides to wrap up loose ends. A flashback reveals Shouya as a 6th grade student in elementary school. Ishida is a classic delinquent. He is a mischievous boy who causes all sorts of trouble in class alongside his friends Ueno and Shimada. Ishida is still in middle school. He is mostly known for his bullying abilities. One day, Ishida's class is introduced to their newest classmate, Nishimiya Shouko. "I'm about to end this woman's whole career." She is brought before the class and allowed to introduce herself. However, instead of speaking, Shouko takes out a notebook from her bag. It has a scribbling stating how she was deaf and would communicate with them using the notebook. The class is fascinated by the arrival of the student, especially the delinquents who have a new target for bullying. Almost immediately taking advantage of her deafness, Ueno and some other girls started teasing and bullying her. Obviously, Shouko has a lot of issues settling into a regular school, but tries her best to blend in. The bullying, however, is not helping at all. Ishida specifically tries his level best, getting a laugh out of his classmates by mocking Shouko on a daily basis. One day, a volunteer from the Sign Language Club arrives at the class to help teach the other students sign language so that they can communicate effectively with Shouko. However, the students are uninterested and just don't care whatsoever, not wanting to learn the sign language. But to their surprise, only one among them, Sahara, decides to volunteer to learn and help Nishimiya Shouko communicate. Sahara gets a bit close with Shouko, and later that becomes her worst mistake and regret. Slowly and eventually, the delinquents start bullying Sahara as well. Sahara, however, is not able to ignore the bullying like Nishimiya and decides to leave the school, leaving Nishimiya behind. With the only friend gone, Nishimiya is alone and has no friends. This wasn't enough to just cut out her positivity to fight. She tries to make new friends with Ishida and repeatedly tells him through sign language that she wants to be friends. But the delinquent, who had refused to learn any sign language, thinks she is being creepy. He throws dirt on her face and runs away. Despite how mean everyone was being, Shouko would smile, apologize, and try to make friends. In the long run, she saw herself as a burden and thinks that her being deaf is the problem and starts wearing hearing aids so that she could blend in with the others. However, this just gives the bullies some more opportunity to bully her. Ishida in particular start taking away her hearing aids and throwing them away one by one every day. They keep repeating the same thing until one day when Ishida steps up his bullying game by forcing her hearing aids off her, which results in Nishimiya bleeding through her ears. That very same day, her mother complains to the school how she had lost 8 hearing aids in the last 2 months. These hearing aids were very expensive, and Nishimiya would always refuse to tell who had been doing this to her. Shouya is singled out as the culprit by his teacher and friends, resulting in the class's bullying becoming directed toward him alone. Even though all the other students had been a part of the bullying as well, they don't step back from piling on their share of the blame on Ishida. Ishida tries to protest how everyone was involved too, but he is one against the many. When he returns home, Ishida's mom is on the phone with the principal, who updates her about everything that had happened. Immediately, she drags Ishida to meet Nishimiya and her mother. She apologizes to her on behalf of her son and even hands her all the money that she had worked so hard to save to compensate her for the hearing aids. Nishimiya's mother takes her to the side, and when she returns to take Ishida back, the boy notices the tear on his mother's ears with blood. She had torn her earrings off to fully compensate for the hearing aids he had broken. Ishida feels terrible and guilty, not for what he had done, but for what had happened to his mother because of it. That day onwards, Ishida is now himself subject of bullying alongside Nishimiya for trying to frame the others for bullying Nishimiya. He gets the same treatment that he gave Nishimiya earlier. Now his life too is hell. However, with the golden heart Nishimiya has, she still wants to be his friend and does her best so that he doesn't feel bullied, going as far as cleaning his desk. Of all the mean comments written by Ueno and the others, one day Ishida notices her cleaning his desk and starts pushing his repressed anger onto her. The two get into a serious fight. The next day, Nishimiya leaves school. Fast forward 5 years, Ishida begins to realize the atrocities that he had committed on Nishimiya. He had bullied her for no reason at all for something that she couldn't even control herself. He starts feeling guilty so that he is unable to look others in the eyes and envisions an X mark on people's faces. They all feel so much better than him. Ishida now begins to realize that he was a scum that did not deserve to live in a society, or rather live at all. In result, he goes to the sign language club carrying Nishima's notebook, which she used to write on to communicate, hoping to return it back and have a chat with her. Nishimiya is a bit flustered to talk to him at first, but when she realizes that he has learned a bit of sign language to talk with her, she decides to open up. Ishida finally does the same hand gestures Nishimiya had done to her years ago to ask her to be his friend, and immediately realizes how he had reacted to this simple question years ago, with his guilt coming right back to him. He quickly changes the topic and leaves to go back home. At home, his mother had found out that Ishida was planning to do the unthinkable. How could he, after all she had done for him, raising him and feeding him? She didn't want the money he had left her if he was going to go ahead and die. She confronts her son and threatens to burn her money until he promises her to never think of something like that again. Ishida, once again crushed under emotions, promises to her, but she accidentally burns the money anyway. Good grief. Even though he had decided to live on, it didn't mean Ishida's problems at school became any easier or relieving. He still couldn't meet anyone in the eyes. He was still a loner. His emo phase was beyond recoverable. Ishida decides to visit Nishima after school too, but isn't so sure about doing it. He has a lot going on in his head. On his way back from school, he sees a chubby kid being bullied by a guy. The guy was practically forcing him to lend in his bike. Does that mean it's my new fresh out of the oven target? Not really, not this time. Ishida contemplates for a while before going to help the boy, but not in the literal prince on the horse way to save the day. He just goes and offers the bully his bike instead. The bully runs off of it for a moment. Ishida takes this as a message from God, telling him not to meet with Nishimiya, but his mind wavers, thinking of ways how he could still meet her and make his visit seem casual. Just then, he notices a bread coupon laying on the floor and for some reason thinks this could be his alibi. Ishida arrives at the sign language club with a bread loaf, but is stopped at the door by a little midget middle schooler who introduces himself as Nishimiya's boyfriend. He tells him to back off and stay away from her and slams the door in his face. Ishida returns home disappointed, and on his way, he encounters the same chubby kid he saved in school earlier. He had brought the bike that the bully had stolen away, and just like that, with that simple act, the X on his face drops to the floor and fades away. The boy introduces himself as Tomohiro Nagatsuka. He actually sat right before Ishida in class, but for so long Ishida had ignored him like he had ignored others. The two guys became friends instantly. Tomohiro even forces Ishida to watch Morbius with him and then decides that Ishida was his best friend. They were definitely morbid. Ishida visits Nishima again, but this time Tomohiro bosses out on the guy claiming to be Nishimiya's boyfriend. Ishida and Nishima talk at the pool below as the boy and Tomohiro stalk them from above. Ishida and Nishimiya are both a bit uncomfortable to talk, considering their past, so they bring back the topic of the notebook again. Nishimiya begins opening the book and remembers all the profanities written on that notebook. He quickly snatches it away, but it falls into the pool below. Nishimiya jumps to get the book, and so does Ishida. The same annoying midget boy clicks their photo from far away. That night he uploads a photo to the internet, and almost immediately the next day, Ishida gets in trouble. He is called to the teacher's office and put again in house arrest for the rest of the week. His mother, however, allows him to go out and look after his sister Maria while she plays in the playground. He finds the same boy again. Ishida realizes that he was the one who had released those pictures. I'm about to end this man's whole career. Well, not really. Somehow Ishida is not mad. He takes the boy to his home and even serves him some lunch. The boy stays as long as nighttime, and Ishida goes to drop him off too. Later, the boy tells Ishida that he knew what he had done to Nishimiya, and acting like a good guy now wouldn't change anything. Ishida agrees that he had done some really horrible things and didn't even deserve to live, but he wanted to make amends. The boy smiles and then reveals he was actually Yuzuru, Nishimiya's younger sister. She had run away from home because she was scolded badly for spreading the picture and getting Ishida in trouble. Slowly, as they walked back home, Yuzuru starts forgiving him, but Nishimiya's mother had not forgiven her at all. She sees the two returning home and thinking that Yuzuru had been taken forcefully and slaps Ishida across the face and walks away with her daughter. What the hell, man? Over the next few weeks, Yuzuru acts as a mediator and helps bring Nishimiya and Ishida closer. Ishida also tries his best to make amends for his mistakes and reunites Nishimiya with Sahara, whom she had wanted to meet for such a long time. Sahara is the same timid girl like she was from before, and she immediately apologizes for leaving Nishimiya back when they were in elementary school. One day, as Ishida takes Nishimiya shopping, he stumbles upon Ueno. She hadn't changed a bit, and as soon as she notices Nishimiya, she once again starts bullying her. Ueno encourages Ishida to help her like old times in bullying Nishimiya, but he stops her. He has no intent to return back to his old ways. Ueno walks away laughing at Ishida's folly. Although Ueno wants to become friends with Ishida again, she doesn't want to be involved with Nishimiya again. She believes that Nishimiya was the one who had broken off their group, and she could never come to like her ever. Few days later, the group of friends go to the amusement park and enjoy the day, almost to the point that Ishida wonders if he deserves all this enjoyment that he was having for the past few days. Was it okay? Was a person like him ever supposed to feel that way? Feel happy? For a moment, Ishida forgets these questions and lives in the moment. In the next few days, however, everything crumbles. Nishimiya visits the doctor with her grandmother and finds out that she can never hear again. Nishimiya gets depressed with the news. Her grandmother passes away a few days later as well. All the pressure has a great impact on Nishimiya. Ishida is unable to figure out her issues. On the day of the fireworks festival, Ishida has gone to the festival along with Nishimiya and her sister. Nishimiya excuses herself and leaves early, telling them that she has to study. Then, out of nowhere, Yuzuru tells Ishida to get the camera from their house. Ishida, luckily on time, goes on to their house and notices Nishimiya climbing on the guardrail to do the unthinkable. Ishida's eyes are widened upon realizing that she was going to do what he had planned on doing some weeks ago. She was giving up. Ishida quickly rushes to her and grabs her arm just as she fell. He grabs onto her and begs God to give him the strength for one more pull. And he would do it all right. He would face his fears. He would look people in the eyes and become better. With that prayer, he gives her one more pull and manages to save Nishimiya, but falls from her guardrail instead. Ishida is then rushed to the hospital. As Ishida recovers in the hospital, Ueno takes care of him. She doesn't let Nishimiya anywhere near him as she blames her for his situation. Nonetheless, a full of guilty Nishimiya comes to the hospital door every day, waiting for Ishida. One night, Nishimiya dreams about receiving a farewell visit from Shouya. Horrified, she runs to the bridge they usually meet at and collapses in tears. Meanwhile, Ishida wakes up from his coma as well, and rushes to the same place too. The two meet and both of them apologize to each other. Ishida apologizes for what he had done to her when they were young, asking her to stop blaming herself, and admits that, while Shouya once considered ending his own life, he has since decided against it. Nishimiya also apologizes for not changing herself with respect to the environment she was in and not putting enough effort. A few weeks later, Ishida and Nishimiya visit Ishida's school for the festival, and they get together with all their friends. Ueno has also started warming up to Nishimiya and learned a bit of sign language as well. Despite her harshness before, her heart had started to melt as well in the festival. At first, Ishida still feels uncomfortable looking at the faces of all the people who were better than him, but soon, with all his friends by his side, he can walk straight again and the exes are no longer there. Overall, the movie teaches us that if we try hard enough to change and never give up, the past could never hold us down and good things always come to those who wait and believe in themselves. Subscribe for more videos like these and turn on the notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Sayonara.